In today's episode, we're going to open this product, and this is by Love Knitting. I found it at Walmart, and apparently it has all the pieces to make several sizes of looms from all that you see. Today, I'm going to unbox, and then we're going to make a hat together. Let's see what's going on with this product. And let's try this out. And I'm going to grab my tools that I have that's been provided. Okay, I'm going to leave the needle or the hook right where it is because I'm not going to use this. So because I'm familiar with loom knitting, I use a hook that is provided by Cricut, and you can find these at Michael's and stuff. And I find because of my dexterity of my hands, and it's much bigger, I find it's a lot easier to hold. So I'm going to be using this hook instead. So let's go and see what we're going to get ourselves into with this guy. So let's see how these guys connect. So it just goes in. So I'm really testing the connection of these guys, because the worst thing to do is if it's going to fall apart as you're loom knitting, then it's pointless. Okay, it takes a bit of effort actually. So it's sliding in a pin, and I'm probably just going to push it down on the table. Okay, so there is the connection there. It's actually pretty tight. So to get it out, got to wiggle it and it comes out. So I think the connection is actually really quite strong. So let's do this. So you can make any configuration that you want, and you can see that the different kinds of configurations you can do. And it says one skein of heavyweight yarn. So what I've decided to do is try the new yarn that's out by Bernat, and it's Bernat Forever Fleece Tweeds. This is a thick yarn. Now the way that I loom knit is that I prefer my loom knitting to be kind of really even, and to do that I'm just going to go into the center of the ball, which I have not done yet. See what happens, and if it gets yarn barf, don't worry about it. There's bigger things to worry about in the world. Okay, so this here is my fun time, and what I'm looking for is the center, which is coming out here, right here. Okay, so here's the end, and I'm gonna make sure I put a twist on it. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use an empty pen, and the empty pen is gonna help me to get it into the configuration to go on. So I'm going to fold the yarn in half, and I have like a spare wire here, and I'm going to put the yarn through the wire. Okay, so it's just gonna connect through. It's just holding it, and what I want to do is grab the pen and go into the pen and pull it through, and therefore this is my feeding tool to make my life go a lot faster, so it doesn't take that long, and then I will be ready for that. So let's figure out how many to do the hat here. So let's start my loom, and I want to start with the slip knot. So this is my configuration that I'm going to do for an adult size hat. It does compress, so you want to be cautious of that. And to do the slip knot to start, you're going to point your finger like this and take the yarn and just go over your finger twice. Okay, so point your finger, come in the front of your hand and over twice. Okay. Front and over twice. I already have this sitting in the pen like I showed you, and I want to take this back one and jump it over the forward but not off the finger. And then I want to take this one and go up over top of the finger, and that is a slip knot. So here it is again, the back one over the front, and take the new back one up and over. And one last time. So the back one over the front and jump it over. So if you know another way to do a slip knot, then be my guest. Put that slip knot on one of the pegs that makes sense for you, and I'm going to do this one right here. So this will be my rotational one, and I'm going to take the yarn to the inside, but the yarn is on the outside of the loom, so don't have the yarn come from the inside of the loom. So now what we're going to do is called an E-wrap, and I'm going to move my pen down, and I want you to concentrate staying towards the bottom side of the pegs. Okay, so you're going to come in and you're going to go out and around, and then back out to the interior. So the next one, around, out, and in. This is called an E wrap. So around, out, and in. And you're going to do this all the way around your loop. Stay towards the bottom side of the pegs. If you don't, then you're going to have to push this down. So just stay towards the bottom, and therefore it's not a step. And just go all the way around, and you can speed yourself all the way around the loom. So I'm coming near to the end, and I've just come around, and now when I go around again for the second time, what you need to do, you need to stay on the upper side of the peg and just continue to wrap in the same motion. So in and out and around. And you're going to do that all the way around once again. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm coming around to where I started, and I'm just going to hold here, and I want to secure the last one that was wrapped. So I'm going to take the bottom one and I'm going to hook it up and just go over top, and that stops it from unraveling that last one that I just wrapped. So everything is in place and I can drop this. So you have two choices. You need to wrap the bottom one over top of the pegs. So you can either reach down like this and pull up and over, or in my case, what I prefer, I turn the entire loom upside down and I use the weight of my hand and I just scoop in. It's still the one closest to the bar, and I go up and over top of the one that's closest to the end. So I prefer the loom upside down, but if you prefer it right side up, then you decide to do that. You're going to go in a direction that makes sense, so you want to always use the same direction. So if you want to take it going off and going this way, then please do, but to make sure it's consistent throughout the whole project. So if you're new, maybe just test it either way and see what you like, and just go all the way around, just taking the bottom over the top of the pegs, just like you see. So no matter how you do it, it's still the same configuration. So it's just the bottom one up and over. You may want to use your fingers to help stabilize it in case that you pull that top one off. So just use your finger in behind if you need to. And we'll hope. And what you want to do is every few, just push it down to the middle, to the base area, and therefore when you wrap it the next time, that'll already be in the correct position instead of having to do an extra step. And go all the way around your loom, doing the same thing. So I've gone all the way back around, moved the pen back down, and so you're just going to spin again around the pegs. And so you're going to continue to do this, and all the project is growing towards the interior of your loom. So you're just going to wrap again, and I'll be right back in a moment. When you get back around, make sure that you secure the last one that's wrapped first, or the whole thing would just jump off. Okay, so now that you can let that go, and now you can decide what you would like to do. In my case, I like to turn it over and just keep on doing this. So you're gonna continue to wrap and knit, and you're gonna do that until the length on the interior as it grows out through here is going to be approximately 5 inches. And then I'm gonna show you how to make a permanent brim for your hat, and that will be coming up next. So please just continue to go around and knit and around and knit and grow out the interior. And I'll be right back after 5 inches is done. A couple of side tips that I would leave with you if you're doing it the way I am. I just use my fingers and I just pull, and I'm just using my thumb to stabilize it, and then I push it up. So I want to make sure that it doesn't fall off. So just use your thumb to kind of push up so that it stays in position, and therefore it's less movement later if you just push it up to where it needs to be. So use your finger. The other thing you can do is you can use your fingernail, and you can just use your fingernail to stabilize this yarn from popping off, just in case it's too loose. You should not have much of a problem, but if you don't grab all of the plies, or sometimes if you snag, it can do that. So if you use your thumbnail too, that also will help you out. Once the brim is approximately 5 inches, what we're going to do is that you're going to turn the inside of this and flip it back over to the pegs. So you can just start anywhere you want to. And if you pull it apart, you can see that there's lines. And so those are the lines in between the pegs. So if you follow that straight on right to the end, it will take you to the very last strand that is on the outside. So if you just want to follow that again, and I'm just guessing. Okay, so I think this one is actually this one right here. So you just have to start with one. Even if you're off by a peg, no big deal. So what I'm going to do is just use my tool, and I'm just going to unravel it, and then I'm going to grab the next one. It's kind of hard to tell with this yarn on camera, but it's just going to be the next one, and I'm going to post that onto the peg as well. And what you're doing is you're creating the brim so that the brim has a permanent fold. Okay, so just grabbing the last one of each and sticking this on. And what we're going to do at the end of this round is that we're going to flip the bottom over top of this, and therefore it's going to be permanently into position. So just go all the way around, placing the last one on there. Just take your time, it's not a race, and I'll be back in just a moment. So I'm coming around, see the little yarn tail? I would tuck it up inside the brim and just keep on putting these over top, and therefore you won't have to sew that in because it'll be inside the brim itself. So once they're all in, you'll see the stretch is happening, which is perfect. So now all you're just going to do is just take the bottom over the top and just knit that bottom one over the one that you just flipped on top. And what this is going to do is that it's going to put the brim together as a solid fold. So just continue to do that all the way around and knit the one over the other. Just a word of caution, if you find that the tension's pretty tight on this thing, make sure that when you're pulling on it, you just don't pull on it without supporting the peg. So if I need to really reef on it, I'm using my thumb to support the peg from being able to bend. So if you break a peg on this thing, there is no replacements in the package, so it's pretty much game over. So make sure you just use your thumb. For me, it's easier to do it on my lap, but if you experience that, make sure that you are supporting that peg to kind of push back to prevent it from bending. So my brim is now completely done, and I'm just going to start knitting. So I can knit now until it's about 9.5 inches from the base of this all the way to the last row, and you can just use your tape measure and just measure on down. You're just going to start wrapping again and knitting as you know it, and when I come back I will show you how to finish it off at the end. So just keep doing what you know and love what you do, and I'll see you at the end of this in just a moment. So I'm back, and now I have about 9 to 9.5 inches. You got to make sure you get it long enough, and you may have to practice with this and to get the length that you prefer for your hat. So you can see that it's grown out on the underside here in the middle, and now we're ready to take this off. So I want you to cut this yarn, so just you can move the feeder back and just cut this yarn to about 2 or some odd feet, and you're just using enough yarn that you can get this onto a tapestry needle. So if you're too short, then it's a problem. So don't be cheap. So I'm going to put this yarn through a big, thick tapestry needle, just like this. And one was provided in the package. It was plastic, if you remember. And I'm using a metal one here. It's just because I'm used to that. So now I'm got it on, and I want to start with my very first one. So I'm gonna see this is where it ends. So I'm gonna start with the first one that would be considered next when I was wrapping. So what I would do is once you start taking this off, it's gonna get a little bit looser, but you're just gonna move the needle up, and you're just going to put it onto the needle and pull the yarn through. So don't pull the yarn tight, like to close it off until you get near to the end. So then leave the yarn on the outside of the loom and go to your next one and go up and over. And these will get easier to take off the more that you remove them. Okay, so go all the way around, just removing off the loops onto your needle, and I'll be right back in a moment. So I'm coming all the way around, just pulling off the last here. So you can see the strand got a lot shorter, but it will get longer as soon as we pull through everything once again. Okay, so it's completely off the loom and it's securely onto the thread. So let's just zoom you out here. So let's take the loom out, and it's officially done. And we are going to just firmly, but carefully, just pull the top of this shut. So you can see this is the whole hat here. And so just using your fingers, so it's all been done, and you're just gonna carefully pull, and this will close in the top of the hat. So I made this hat for Daniel. He doesn't necessarily like pom-pom hats, so you could apply a pom-pom to the top of this hat if you really wanted to. Just make sure it's all shaping properly, and you're going to close off the complete top of this hat. Okay, and you can see that it naturally wants to fold into 4 pieces, which is normal for a hat. So you're going to see that there's a slight opening. So carefully just go directly across, straight across, just capture it into the stitch work. Use your fingers to be able to feel where to go. And then come back to where this other one is popping out. Like that. And that's going across the top of the hat, and then come in from the other angle and come in here and go across. Stay as close as you can to the top. And again, pull. See, that shut it down. So now I'm going to push this into the top of the hat, and just carefully with my hand in behind, just pull it out through the center of the inside of the hat. And now let's turn this inside out. And all you just need to do is just secure this. So just grab a piece of it. Don't stick it all the way through the hat. Just grab some pieces of it and just pull it through to tie it into a knot. Okay, just pulling it through and loop it through that yarn that you're pulling through, and that will create a tie. And do that one more time. And now that that's tied, you can cut this short. And because it's the inside of the hat, you don't have to worry about doing anything more to it. And then you could just turn it back to what you would normally use, and there would be a great little hat, and your brim is permanently into position, and your top is done, and you're good to go. That's it for today, and we hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. Let me know in the comments on how you did.